Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hey guys, welcome back to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco, your host, and today we have a very controversial topic. It's all about the red flags when hiring your wedding vendors. There's always going to be a red flag. So today we have Mariana Duzansky from Forever Wedding Services. Hello.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here. I love the Tipsy Guest.
Thank you. I am so happy that you're here. We got to work on a wedding last year on New Year's Day. And that was such a fun wedding. I'm used to weddings on New Year's Eve, but not on New Year's Day.
Yeah, at the Hotel Emma.
Yes, that was such a
fun.
stunning wedding.
Yes.
I cannot, like the footage that we got from that wedding, everybody was so photogenic. It was such a cool vibe.
Yeah.
It was
the couple was so sweet. The guests were awesome. Yeah.
It was a fun one. It was
awesome.
Such a fun. You know, when I heard that it was going to be a New Year's Day wedding, I was like, everybody's going to be tired from the night before, the celebration and everything. But no, everybody was just having the
party.
Yes.
Just kept it going.
It's like they continue the party from the night before.
Yeah.
Oh my
Good
goodness.
for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. But okay, so red flags. That is a topic that I've been wanting to chat about because, I mean, we gotta be honest. There's good vendors, there's bad vendors, and there's horrible vendors.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a planner, okay, first, let our listeners know what you do, who you are, where they can find you on social media. We want to make sure that we get that out there, and then we'll just jump right in.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Mariana. I am the owner of Forever Wedding Services. I started my business in 2020. So I've been here for a little bit. I am on Instagram, TikTok probably for the next couple of days.
Oh my goodness, yes. So time of recording right now, this episode, it is January of 2025. So we don't know if we're going to have TikTok next week.
So yeah, but Instagram for sure at forever.ws. So
Perfect. So make sure you go follow her and see all the stuff that she's doing with all the events. And so are you a full-on wedding planner or are you just a day of coordinator? What exactly do you do?
yeah, I do offer both services. So I do full planning and also coordinating. Low-key, I love coordinating. I've got it down to the science. Now it's fun.
Okay, so just a quick here, getting off topic from the red flag vendors. What is the difference between a planning, like an event planner or a wedding planner, and a coordinator? Just quick.
Yeah, full planning, the couples are just relying on me to make all the decisions, vendors, budgeting, task, the whole thing from when they say I do to when they're leaving the reception hall, right? For coordinating, they do the whole planning. A month before, I just take over and make sure all of their planning is going as smooth as they planned it.
Okay, all right. Easy. You know, for those of you that were asking what the difference is, there you have a quick little tutorial on that. But all right, Mariana. So let's talk about vendors, just vendors in general. I mean, we work with all kinds of vendors every single day, every single week at events. How do you deal with, I mean, when you're, you have to put all of this together. I guess, give me an average. How many vendors do you normally deal with per wedding? What's the average?
About 8.
Okay.
8.
Can you maybe name a few just to get an idea?
It'll be the venue, photographers, videographers, catering, bartending. Did I say DJ?
DJ.
DJ. Photo booth, usually have photo booth. Sometimes there is extra rentals like the cotton candy cart, which is so much fun.
I love that. Yes, that's so good.
Entertainers, and if there is rentals, I mean, that's about 10.
Okay. And then what is normally your experience with, when you're reaching out to them to finalize the details? Is it always easy? Give me the drama. I want to hear it all.
The vendors that I worked with before, it's so easy. They would have my email. They even call me back. Hey, I got your email. We're good to go. Any questions? They know how I work. I send really details packets, as I call them. It has the timeline, contact information, floor plans, all kinds of stuff that they could need. Even allergies for the bride and groom, everything that they will use. So they already know what I'm sending. They kind of just review it. They have questions, they let me know. But other than that, it's easy. The vendors that I've never worked with before, I need to make sure that they get my email, they review it, and then have questions, go over it together. So those are usually on my coordinating client, they plan the weddings themselves, so they get their own vendors. So sometimes when they work with someone that I've never worked before, that's when I'm like, oh my God, okay, let's
a little nervous.
Yeah. And sometimes I get surprised, wow, I love these people, I'm gonna add them to my list. Or sometimes it'll be horrible, I'm like, oh my gosh, blacklisted.
Yeah. So to you, what would be a red flag from a vendor?
Okay, the first for me will be communication. If you're trying to hire them and they don't email you or call you back, that's already weird. I'm trying to give you my business and you're not reaching back. No. And also, if they're very communicative at the beginning, once you pay them and they just ghost you, that freaks me out. I'm like, no.
I've seen that happen before. Even, and not just necessarily vendors, but there's also couples sometimes that they ghost you completely until the very last minute. And that, oh my God, I'm always so nervous. When like you said, everything is communication as you're planning, as you're trying to get them booked.
Yeah.
But then once they sign, once they pay, then they just go MIA. And then I'm like, hey, I still need more details. Where are you? Yeah. Which is, I think, to me, as a vendor, that's when the planner or the coordinator comes in place. Because if that's one of my questions that my initial questions with the couple is do you have a planner? Do you have a coordinator? Because I know that if they go MIA, then I can just reach out to the planner and be like, hey, I haven't heard from the couple. What's going on?
Yeah.
And that's when, you open that communication line with the planner in this case.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
I do get nervous, girl. I know the feeling. Know the feeling.
Oh my God.
But okay, communication, yeah, I think that is the main one, because you're talking to these people for a while. And I do like that what you mentioned earlier, if it's a vendor that you've already worked with, then you create that relationship with that vendor. So it's easier to just send a text, versus a formal email. Just like, hey girl, I just sent you an email, please reply.
Yeah. Do you have questions? Get back to me.
Yeah. I like to do that. I like to keep everything on an email. Because, I can text the planner or I can text whatever vendor, but I always go back to email because I want to make sure that I keep a timeline that I can go back to and be like, hey, girl, I email you on this date and we talked about this. Because there's always things that change last minute or the day of the wedding. And then they're like, well, we discussed this. And you're like, no, we didn't.
Yeah.
I had a Christmas wedding, not too obviously, a month ago. Again, this is February of 2025. So the holidays just passed. I had a wedding and I show up to do the setup for the photo booth. And then I show up and they have this sofa and Christmas tree. I knew it was going to be a Christmas themed wedding, but I didn't know that we were going to incorporate a sofa and Christmas trees for the backdrop of the photo booth. Okay. So I get there and she's like, oh, that's going to be where you set up. And I'm like, girl, you didn't tell me this. I'm like, I wish you did, because that way I know. I can make it happen. I can accommodate, but I wish I knew. That way I prepare for it, we might need to set up the photo booth a little farther. We might need to bring a backdrop that's a little wider so that we make sure that we get the sofa in there with the Christmas tree. And she's like, no. She's like, we discussed this over the phone and I have it on my notes and I sent you an email. And I'm like, girl, I would know if you did, because this is such a specific setup that I would know. I would remember that it would be on my notes. So, I didn't want to be, show me your notes, show me your email, because I was not going to argue. So I just went with it and I did the setup and it turned out to be great. It worked out perfectly. But she was telling me, she's like, no, we had a conversation. And I'm like, girl, I know we didn't.
Yeah.
So not that it's a red flag, as we're talking about red flags, but yes, communication is key.
For sure.
Because, things happen. And even though you're preparing for this day all month or, months in advance, the day off, it's a little stressful because all the vendors are showing up. They're doing their own setups. The planner is trying to get everything organized. So even though we've been looking forward for that day, like, it's stressful. No matter how long you've been in the business, it's a stressful day.
Yeah.
It's a stressful
Chaos.
situation. Yes.
So many moving parts. It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yeah. So have you dealt with any, and you obviously you don't have to call out any vendor, or you can if you like. I mean, this is the Tipsy Guest. We like drama here. But what have you gone through that is something like that, where like things change last minute and the vendors are not prepared for it, or they just give you a hard time about certain things? Like, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I had this wedding one time, and the couple, for ceremony, they wanted garland drapery in every chair. And they talked to the floors, everything was good. But wedding day, they didn't realize that there was much more space from one chair to the next because people have to move and sit.
Yeah.
So we were short on greenery, and the poor florists had to like go and get more greenery and add on to the garland. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we talked about it, And they're like, yeah, we didn't think there was so many people, which means more chairs and more space staff. I'm like, oh.
Did it work out at the end?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
That's what matters. But yes, I mean, that is the reason why you guys have meetings.
Yeah.
Like you have meetings prior to the big day, just to make sure that everyone is prepared.
Yeah.
I know, like, for example, with me, like, I know there are certain venues that don't allow, for us to tape the cables to the floor, because it could potentially damage the wood floor or the carpet and things like that. So those are things that we need to know. If it's a venue that we haven't worked out, we appreciate it when the coordinator or even the venue, they send us the guidelines for the setup, because that way I know that I'm not bringing tape, but I'm bringing either a rug, or maybe just like one of those like cable covers, things like that.
Be prepared.
Yeah, just to be prepared. And that's for every single vendor. I mean, everybody has their own way of setting things up. So again, we keep going back to communication.
Yeah.
Like, it is all about communicating with your vendors.
Yeah. And that goes with contracts as well, which is also a flag. I come from I was a paralegal for 12 years before I started doing weddings.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I worked at a law firm for 10 years.
Oh my God. So we know.
The things you find out at the Tipsy Guest.
Exactly. So you know about like the fine print and reading through, and like you were saying, venues, they sometimes have like 12-page contracts. And it's my job as the planner and coordinator to go through it and make sure they're prepared. Because we can't expect the couples to go through everybody's contract and remember it all.
Yeah.
Right? So this is when they're relying on us to go through the contracts and let the vendors know, hey, we can't tape anything on the floor. We can't tape anything on the walls. Things like that. So,
it's and now that you're talking about contracts, I think one of the biggest, and this is a Tipsy Guest pro tip right here to all of our couples, make sure you always sign a contract.
Yes.
If there is a vendor that doesn't send you a contract, girl, you're in danger. You're in danger. Move away.
Major red flag. Yes.
Yes. I mean, if they're like, no, you can just pay us the day of the wedding, or just
Cash app. No.
No, girl. No, you got to sign a contract and make sure you read the contract. Perfect example. 2020, which is right around the time that you got started. I mean, COVID happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of the weddings were being canceled, were being postponed, were being moved. So and it was new for everyone. I feel like that year was a learning experience for every single vendor and couples out there.
I was a 2020 bride.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, my wedding's in a week.
Did you have to move in?
Yeah, it was in March.
Oh, right. As it started.
Yeah. I'm like, what do I do? Do I need to move it? And all my vendors were like, I don't know what to do either.
So what happened?
We ended up moving it to July. So everybody was good with that. But yeah, it was crazy. I was calling my photographer. She's like, I don't know what to do. I guess it's fine that we move it. Because Everybody was on the same boat.
Perfect example. Okay, here now. So now I'm interviewing Mariana as a bride, not as a vendor right now. So did you have any issues with any of the vendors where you had to pay them all over again, or did they just credit the original and moved it to the next one, or how did that work out for you?
I was blessed and lucky that I was as soon as it started, my wedding was next Friday, and the Monday of, that's when they were like, you know what, we're gonna start closing
shutting down.
Yeah, the whole thing. So all my couples are like, well, it's in a week, like it's not your fault, we don't know what we're doing. So everybody was nice enough. They credit me, and they were just able to move my wedding date as long as they had availability.
Yeah.
And we know Texas, July, it's slow season for us, so they were pretty much open, so it was not a problem.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy.
And it is wild. And again, that is the reason why a contract is very important, because I feel like everybody changed or added something to their contract after 2020 because of cancellations, because of transferring your date to a different date. Because let's say, for example, DJs or I don't know, I can think of, or even venues, for example, sometimes they can only do one wedding per day. So if you're moving your wedding and then they're not available, then what happens? Who's protected? Is the venue going to keep your money? Are you going to have to pay all over again? Are you just paying a percentage? These are things that you have to definitely discuss with your vendors.
Yeah.
And make sure that they put it in writing when you sign that contract, because then, things can happen.
For sure.
Of course, during that time, it was the pandemic, but, things can happen. Accidents happen, just things in general. I can't think of anything.
Kinds of stuff, yeah.
But yeah, sometimes, I've had weddings that get moved or canceled last minute, and I always get those questions from either the couple directly or from the planner, and they're like, hey Marco, how do you handle this? Are they gonna keep a credit so that they can use at a later time? Are they going to lose their money completely? How do you work around that? Which this will be a topic for a different episode, of course. But no, for real, contracts. Sign a contract. Make sure, again, if your vendor does not make you sign a contract, don't hire them.
Move on. Yeah.
Move on.
For sure.
Move on to the next one, because this is not only to protect you, but it's also to protect the vendor. So if a vendor doesn't have a contract, that tells you that they don't care.
Yeah.
To me, I would never hire somebody without a contract.
Yeah. I think the exception will be mariachis, just because they're so low-key, and they usually pay them the day of.
Okay, good to know.
But that's it.
Okay.
Other than that, when couples are like, well, mariachis, I was like, okay, that's fine. I know them. It's okay. I never do contracts. But other than that, no, everybody else should have a contract. Doesn't matter big or small. They need to have a contract for sure.
Okay. And then when you, as a coordinator or planner, do you require for the couple or for the vendors that are involved to send you a copy of the contract, or is that a thing?
Yeah. So when I meet with my clients at our details meeting, usually 6 weeks before, I ask them to bring all the contracts from all of their vendors. If they're electronic, you can email them over. If they're paper copies, we can make copies. That's fine. I like to review them all to make sure we're not just what we're expecting from the vendors, but also what the vendors are expecting from us. Meals, for whoever's there, or if it's a band, the green room, things like that. I want to make sure we know for both sakes, for the vendors and the couple.
Okay. And for you, what are the signs that a vendor might not be a good fit for a couple, one of your couples? Let's say they're still booking other vendors. What is a sign where you would jump in and say, you know what? No, let's not hire that vendor. Let's go with this other one. Or here are some recommendations for other vendors. Yeah.
Sometimes it may look obvious, but budget. If they're over budget and they're just trying to squish it in because they really want to work with them, it's not worth sacrificing your budget for something else that we still need, for something that we can get somewhere else sometimes. Or I had a perfect example. I just work with a photographer and I love him. He's so talented, but he didn't have chemistry with the couple.
Oh.
And it was awkward, and the pictures were awkward, and she was just like, I don't feel comfortable, and I don't understand him very well because he kind of mumbles. I'm like, yeah, well, he's kind of timid, so you kind of have to warm up to him.
Was it an experienced photographer?
He's been in the business for a long time, and I've worked with him before, and they were gorgeous, but with them specifically, they just didn't click.
That's interesting.
And I'm like, in consultations, that's why I love consultations, because you get to see if you click with the vendor or not, you know? For me, I work with the clients for months and months. Sometimes I see them more than their fiancés.
Yeah.
So we have to have chemistry within us, you know?
That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, otherwise it'll be awkward.
I mean, I can just imagine. I mean, because your wedding photos are what you're gonna keep forever.
Ever.
Yeah. So if you don't have that chemistry, so it brings up my next question. So how? I don't know if you've experienced this specifically, but what would you recommend to a couple that already hired someone, and then they find out that they're not a good match? Like, what would you recommend to a couple that goes through something like that?
First, look at the contract.
Yeah.
What it is. There are some contracts, depending on how long they've been hired or when the wedding is. You can get full refunds, usually not the retainers, the deposits. But if it's too close to, you probably don't want to change. If you really want to change, you probably won't get a good amount or any of the money. In some cases, if it's the month of, you still have to pay them in full based on the contract. They're just all different.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they want to change, definitely first look at the contract. And then second, you got to look for someone that will be within your budget and meets your criteria.
Yeah. I think also like another red flag for me is if somebody is really cheap.
Yeah.
To me,
Facebook.
Yes. To me, that automatically says, red flag. Why are you so cheap?
Yeah.
Like, for example, with me, with the photo booth, I always see, like, you know, we're past vendors. We're part of, like, all these, like, different Facebook groups, you know, like wedding vendors or you know, couples or newly engaged couples or, you know, things like that where people go and ask for advice for vendors and things like that.
Yeah.
So you always see, like, at least for me, for example, for photo booths, I always see, like, hey, you know, get a photo booth for... I'm exaggerating here, 8 hours and get everything, you know, from unlimited printouts to unlimited props and unlimited this and unlimited that for $175.
Oh my God.
And it's like, girl, no. I mean, $175 sounds too good to be true. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like, if you're going to hire somebody that's that cheap offering you that much, you need to ask, show me the photo booth that you're going to bring to my wedding. Show me the props. Show me the other work.
Showing up?
Like, yeah, show me other work that you've done. I want to see your reviews. I want to see everything.
Yeah.
Because I have gotten emails last minute, you know, from couples that are like, hey, Marco, we went with a photo booth, but it's a week before the wedding and we can't find them. Like, we paid them or we were supposed to pay them the day of the wedding and blah, blah, blah. We don't know where they are. I'm like, that's what you get. Like, you will get what you pay for. Like, it's so unfortunate that, you know, there's people out there scamming people, you know, like it is so sad. But yes, to me, I think if it's too cheap, I would say do your research before jumping into it. Because I've always said it, you're going to get what you pay for. And most of the time, if it's really cheap, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, because professionals, we know our worth in our services, and we will pull through because we are professionals.
Yeah, I always say, no, it's completely true.
If you're not, you know, then you don't care. You're not a professional, and that means you're not getting professional services.
Exactly. Sometimes people are just doing it on the side, and of course, you know, I have nothing against people trying to make money, but at the same time, it's like, don't try to sell something that you know you're not going to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
You know, don't sell your product as saying like, hey, you know, luxury services and we are going to be the best and blah, blah, blah. but then you're only charging $100. And then what you show up with is not the best thing, you know.
$50 worth service.
Exactly. So I think that is my biggest red flag. You know, like if you're too cheap, you're not going to get good service.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's my biggest takeaway from this episode. Do not hire somebody that's really cheap.
I know.
Oh my goodness. But okay, Mariana, so we are running out of time here.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to add that you're like, you know what? I think this is a red flag. Anything else?
One more. Social media. We're all in social media, so it's inevitable now. If you're looking up for someone and they haven't posted in like 2 years on Instagram, yeah, it's the red flag as well, because that means they're not making the time to put in work in their business, you know? So for sure, it's social media or going into their websites and they're outdated.
Yeah.
Or their portfolios are outdated. You know, if you still see chevron patterns on linen, you probably don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
That's old. That's way old.
We got to keep up with the trends. We got to keep up with the trends. I like that. That is very true. I mean, I get a lot of business from social media, but that's because I'm very active on social media.
Yeah.
Like, I like to show off the type of events that I do, the weddings that I work at. And brides and grooms love that. You know, I always get those DMs from couples that are like, hey, we saw your story last night and we absolutely loved it. We want to use that backdrop. Or we saw you posted this the other day and blah, blah, blah. And then they send me the link of the post. And yeah, this is what we want. That is very important. You know, be active on social media and that's how you know people are busy and people are working.
Are still in business.
And they're still in business. Yeah. Oh, another thing quick that reminds me.
Yeah.
So how far in advance do you, let's say, for example, if it's a wedding right now, it's 2025. Let's say somebody reaches out to you and their wedding, it's like, I don't know, late 2027 or like 2028. Would you book something like that? Or would you wait? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, I usually tell them to reach out around the 13 to 12 month mark. Okay. So we can start the planning process. The reason I don't want to do it so long, it's because it gets dreading. Like, it should be fun. The planning process should be fun. And if it's extended for such a period of time, there's months that we won't be doing anything. And then they get antsy. And they're like, why it's nothing happening?
Yeah.
And there's so much we can do. Once we book vendors, we just have to wait till it gets closer to finalize things.
Okay,
right?
that makes sense.
So if it's too long, there'll be months like nothing's happening. We don't feel comfortable. They start getting itchy. And so I'm like, we'll just wait. That way everything goes to the pace and it's fun for everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
You want to make sure that the planning process is fun. Yeah. I mean, you are literally planning the best day of your life.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that everything is smooth for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I like. So, yeah. All right. Well, Mariana, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate you. Yeah. I cannot wait for us to work together again on an upcoming wedding. Yeah. So, to our listeners, make sure that you follow Mariana on social media. I will make sure to list all her information in the show notes and the blog for this episode. And also, again, you know, if you have any questions that you want me to ask our upcoming guest, make sure you send me a DM, visit our website. You know, just let me know who you want me to have here on the podcast, and we will make sure we make it happen.
Yes.
Thanks, girl.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers. This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.